Hello, recappers! Today's movie starts with Caroline, a successful interior designer living in San Francisco. Her life seems perfect, but she faces two big problems. First, she suddenly can't feel any joy or pleasure, and no one knows why. Second, her neighbor is very loud at night with his romantic activities, keeping her awake. These two problems are driving her crazy. But when they come together in an unexpected way, a surprise meeting might change everything. The story begins with Caroline sharing a personal secret with the viewers. She works as an interior designer at her friend Jillian's company and recently rented a nice apartment in the city center. Everything in her life seems to be going well, except for one major issue: her inability to achieve orgasm. This problem began 6 months ago after a pizza delivery guy claimed to be skilled in intimacy, leaving a lasting negative impact on Caroline. Since then, she has been unable to regain her previous sense of pleasure. However, there's another issue with this apartment: her noisy neighbor, who brings a new girl home every night, causing constant disturbances. One morning, Caroline spies on her neighbor through the peephole and sees him saying goodbye to a very overweight woman. Before the night is over, he brings home another girl who, for some unknown reason, makes cat-like noises during their time together. These sounds deeply unsettle Caroline's cat, causing her further distress. Exhausted by the situation, Caroline shows up to work every day looking tired and sleep-deprived. She shares her frustration with Jillian, complaining about her neighbor's behavior. But Jillian, who previously lived in the same apartment, claims she never had such issues. One night, Caroline, along with her friends Sophia and Mimi, goes to her apartment after drinking alcohol, so her friends can witness one of the neighbor's loud nights for themselves. As usual, the neighbor is making a ruckus. Caroline sarcastically remarks to her friends about how Wallbanger has been unjustly tortured. After hearing Caroline's descriptions of the various noises from the neighboring apartment, her friends realize the neighbor is involved with 3 women at the same time. This revelation amuses Caroline's friends, but for Caroline, who hasn't slept properly for 3 nights in a row, it's anything but funny. This situation continues for several days, with different women showing up at the neighbor's apartment, including one named Lizzie. Caroline, who still hasn't seen her neighbor up close, refers to him as Wallbanger and develops a strong dislike for him. One night, when it seems the neighbor has come home alone, Caroline hopes she can finally get a good night's sleep. She comfortably puts on her favorite nightgown and lets her cat out of the room. But just as she's about to fall asleep, the annoying noise from the wall starts again. This time, Caroline becomes furious and decides to confront her neighbor. In their first encounter, Caroline sees him half-dressed and realizes that Simon, her neighbor, is incredibly attractive and can't seem to get him out of her head. However, Caroline's main purpose for the visit is to complain about the noise, not anything else. Simon, on the other hand, responds indifferently, telling her she has no right to tell him what to do. He even mocks her, saying that if she can't hear him, why hasn't he ever heard her? Perhaps because no one's willing to step foot into her room. The next day, Caroline talks to her friends about how attractive her neighbor Simon is. At a party hosted by Jillian, Caroline unexpectedly runs into Simon again. It turns out he is one of Jillian's close friends. Caroline's friends mistakenly refer to Simon as Wallbanger in his presence, a nickname Caroline had given him. This angers Simon, as he doesn't understand why he's been called such a name. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Simon calls Caroline, quote, "pink nightgown girl," as she had been wearing that particular outfit during her confrontation with him. Later, Caroline and Simon step into the garden and have a conversation. During this, an argument erupts between them, and a frustrated Caroline slaps Simon. However, they eventually call a truce and decide to establish some ground rules to make living next to each other more tolerable. Simon promises to keep the noise down at night, and Caroline agrees to be a bit more lenient. It seems that Caroline and Simon are trying to get along more amicably. Meanwhile, Caroline's friends Sophia and Mimi successfully catch the attention of Neil and Ryan. Each of them leaves the party with their respective guys. The next day, Jillian suggests to Caroline that she should consider starting a relationship with Simon. She explains that she's known Simon for a long time, and not only is he a good guy, but he's also a professional photographer. In the next scene, something unexpected happens. Caroline's cat attacks one of the girls who used to make cat-like noises. The terrified girl quickly flees the apartment. Meanwhile, the overweight girl notices the growing connection between Caroline and Simon. While Simon is away on a trip to Ireland, Jillian gives him Caroline's number. The two stay in touch via text messages throughout his trip, and after Simon returns, their relationship evolves from hostility to friendship, becoming closer day by day. They even start spending nights together, though they mutually agree to remain close friends and nothing more. On a weekend getaway, Caroline and Simon, along with their friends, go to Ryan's private cabin. They spend their time playing guitar, having heartfelt conversations, and hiking through scenic nature trails. During this trip, Caroline and Simon's relationship remains firmly in the realm of friendship. One evening, during a wine-fueled hangout, they decide to play a game of truth or dare. While playing, Caroline notices the awkward tension and lack of chemistry between the couples. She bluntly suggests that Mimi and Sophia should swap boyfriends, as their current relationships aren't working. Following her advice, Mimi and Sophia leave the hot tub with their new partners, leaving Caroline and Simon alone. At this point, the feelings between Caroline and Simon begin to intensify, and it seems like a pivotal moment is about to unfold. However, Simon suddenly decides to step back, leaving Caroline hurt and upset. She walks away feeling disappointed and heartbroken. The next morning, Simon honestly admits that he is interested in Caroline, but he didn't want their first intimate moment to happen while they were drunk, as it could have ruined everything. Caroline accepts this explanation. A week later, Caroline complains to Jillian about Simon's lack of attention and how he hasn't reached out, believing that he's no longer interested. However, Jillian reassures her and suggests giving Simon some time. When Caroline decides to ask Simon out on a date, she accidentally overhears a conversation between him and one of his former girlfriends, which changes her mind. Instead, she decides to meet up with Jim, her ex-boyfriend. Their meeting takes a turn toward intimacy, but Jim makes a big mistake by calling Caroline, quote, decorator, which ends the encounter with him leaving empty-handed. Meanwhile, Simon appears at her door. It's unclear whether he had been there all along, but Caroline pours out all her feelings and frustrations to him. She vents about being ignored, having a terrible date, and feeling drained by her current situation. Simon tries to comfort her and explains that he has ended all his previous relationships because he only wants to be with her. Simon then invites Caroline on a photography trip to Spain. During their trip, they visit stunning sights, enjoy local cuisine, and spend quality time together. Simon chooses to take things slow in their relationship, but Caroline suggests starting with small, gentle steps. However, after a while, these small steps are no longer enough for Caroline. She decides it's time to take the relationship to the next level. Simon gives his best effort, and everything seems perfect. Caroline feels as though she's finally about to experience the moment she's been longing for. But suddenly, nothing happens. To hide her disappointment, she pretends to reach orgasm. The next morning, without offering much of an explanation, Caroline tells Simon she enjoyed spending time with him, but needs to return home. After returning home, she takes out her frustration on a cardboard advertisement of the pizza delivery guy, who appears to be the root of all her problems. Sometime later, Simon shows up to see her and finds Caroline cooking. Realizing that she had been pretending earlier, Simon suggests that they work together to find the root of the issue. Reluctantly, Caroline explains that her problems began with that pizza delivery guy and how exhausted she is from it all. Simon comforts her, and the two confess their love for each other, deciding to try again. This time, everything goes perfectly, and Caroline finally experiences the moment she has been searching for all along. In the end, Caroline and Simon gather around a table with their friends. At this moment, Benjamin and Jillian confess that they had been orchestrating the whole situation from the beginning to bring Caroline and Simon closer together. The story concludes with the two main characters growing closer and forming a genuine and lasting love. And that's how our story ends. What did you think about the ending? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next breakdown.